Hi everybody! Today we're back working on my series of videos where I take the prompts from Create This Book 2 by Mariah Elizabeth and turn them into prompts for colouring pages. And today we've skipped ahead a few prompts because this picture we're going to be working on today is actually a body colour with the lovely colour and collage with M's. So that's really exciting to actually have a body colour along with this book. And the prompt that we've picked to have as our body colour today is this one here. It is create a puzzle. If I zoom in there, it says create a puzzle, turn this page into a puzzle. So I'm really excited to see which page Emma has actually picked to create a puzzle with. But this is the page that I've picked to create a puzzle with. I think I've got an idea that might work for this picture here. And this one is from Fierce and Fantasy Faces, line art in grayscale, that's hard to say. This is by Hannah Lynn, and this is the picture that I've picked here. I have copied it out of that book. I will show you the picture in the book. Here we go. This is the picture in the book here. I've copied that out a little bit bigger because this idea would work a little bit better if the page is actually bigger. So I've copied that page up bigger. So we're going to zoom in and get started. And we're going to start off just by colouring this page fairly simply with markers and a little bit of gel pen, which will hopefully make that quite easy to follow along even if you are colouring in the pocket-sized book there. So I'll zoom us in, and without further ado we'll get started on this picture, and I'm quite excited for this one. I'm really hoping my idea works. Yeah, I will zoom us in and we'll get started. Okay, there we are, zoomed in a little bit. And as I said, we're going to be colouring this fairly simply, just with the Ohuhu markers. There's no pencil shading involved in this one. There will be a little bit of gold gel pen, a little bit of white gel pen, but I thought I'd play this first part of the video as a kind of a colour along if anyone is interested in following along in the Fantasy Faces book. I'm not going to say that whole long title again, but if anyone is interested in following along, they'll be able to use the same markers if they have them, get the same kind of picture at the end. So for the background, I thought I'd start by filling in the actual background. That is with B440 Cyanine Blue. These will all be the Ohuhu art markers. These are from the 104 set of Ohuhu art markers. And I'm just going to fill in this whole background here. I'm going to just be colouring over the moon there to get rid of that, because the simpler this picture can actually be, the better it will be for my idea if I can make that work. So I'm going to go ahead and fill in all this background here. There's our background all coloured in there. I have completely disregarded that moon. The moon does not exist for the purposes of this little puzzle idea I'm going for here. And also, to keep things fairly simple, that is just one layer of that cyanine blue colour in the background there. We will be adding a little bit of glitter later on into that blue background, but that's completely optional. For the base coat of her skin, I will be using Y110, which is called Grayish Yellow. And even though that's called greyish yellow, that is quite a nice pale skin tone. And as we are going for Alice in Wonderland here, I'm going for a pale skin for her. So this is the colour we're going to be basing her skin. We can see there that greyish yellow does make a really nice skin tone as a base, and I'm not super confident, as I have said before, I think, on shading skin with markers, but I am going to try and come in with this E160 that is called Soft Sun. I'm going to come in with that Soft Sun, try and add a little bit of shading to her fairly pale skin tone here, and then blend it in with the greyish yellow. So while that's still damp, I'll try and maybe blend that in a little bit with the greyish yellow. I am not an expert at shading skin with markers. I will say that, guys. I'm not an expert with that, but yeah, I think we're having something there that will possibly work. On her face as well, we're going to add some shadow this side of her hair. Maybe bring in a shadow for that strand crossing her face. And as Hannah Lynn doesn't tend to give her girls noses, I'm just going to add in some shade where I think maybe a nose sort of shadow would come here. I'm going to add some shade on this side of her face. My light is coming from the right of the page here, so that's the side as most of her face is actually facing. So we're going to have our light coming in that way and leaving the kind of highlight along the edge of the face, as I do like to do there. Then trying to blend that in into the greyish yellow to give at least a little bit of shading for a face here. I'm not going to try Super hard to go in with the blushy cheeks, as I really don't want to mess this up. I want to keep it pretty simple and just leave a little bit of skin shading here. We'll maybe do most of her eyelid there. Try and blend in that darker shade. And the other side of her face, because that is in the light, I'm going to come in just with another layer of the greyish yellow and add some softer shadows on the other side of her face. Again for her eyelid. And a little bit of sort of suggestion that we do have some kind of shape there. And that should dry a little bit paler and just be a little kind of semblance of shadow there, showing that we do have a little bit of shape to her face. Maybe we'll bring in a little bit under her eyelid there. Make sure that eyelid has its shading. Maybe a little bit down where her nose would actually come there. I think that's not looking too bad. I think I'm going to go with that for the shading for her face there. So we'll just bring in a little bit of shade for the undersides of her fingers here as well. Not much little bits of fingers there to be shading, but we will add in a little bit there on the underside to show we haven't forgotten them, as I nearly did. There we go. For her hair, again trying to keep things fairly basic and not trying for much realism at all here, I'm going to add a base with this one, which is Y040 Calamansi, I think you pronounce that. I'm just going to add in a base of that colour yellow to give her the Alice in Wonderland blonde hair, the classic Alice in Wonderland, the blonde hair and the blue dress we're going for here. The colours that I've chosen to shade her hair to try and keep a nice warm blonde colour going on there, that is Y130 Mustard and E370 Light Walnut for the shadows. So first of all, we're going to go in with the mustard, which is Y130. And we're going to add a little bit of shading to each side of her hair here. As our light will be coming from the right, we're going to get some highlight down the middle. So we're going to be shading mainly to the sides. Fairly simply, just putting in a few kind of flicking motions there as strand lines for her hair. And leaving the middle to be our highlight. Maybe come in with a few little bits of white gel pen. But mainly we are, as much as we can, keeping to the markers here to keep things fairly simple. And as I said, if anyone fancies colouring along, either in the pocket version or the larger version of the book, then yeah, feel free. I will try and mention every colour that I use and show you the areas I actually use it on. So you can be using this as a little bit of colour along if you do feel like doing that. So that's a little bit of a hair there shaded with the mustard. And then I'm going to come in with the light walnut for a little bit of shading on the very far corners, the far edges. And while that is slightly damp, again come in with the mustard colour and blend that in very slightly. We still want to have these strand lines visible pretty much, but we do want that blending in into her hair, just to give a little bit of shade and shadow, a bit of depth here. That's all we're really needing. Like that, I think that's working really well. So I'm going to carry on with that. Just shade her hair and then get back to you. And there's her hair all done there. And as you all know, traditional Alice in Wonderland does wear a blue dress. And we do have a slightly different outfit here, but I've decided to stick with the more traditional colours of the blue and white for Alice's outfit there. So I've picked out a couple of shades of blue. I've picked out a lighter shade here, which is B110 Crystal Blue. And I've also picked out B080 Process Blue to be a slightly darker shade. So I'm just first going to go in and fill in all the lighter blue areas with the crystal blue. I've decided to do stripes on her gloves and her sweater vest here. I think this little crop top here that she's wearing, I've decided to make those at the light blue and then carry on the blue stripes down her whatever these are, her sleeves, her arm covers. I'm going to do all those in the blue and white stripes. So for her crop top here, yeah, I'm doing the whole first layer in the crystal blue. Just one flat layer of the crystal blue to get us started here. And I'm going to bring in the B080, the process blue, for these kind of cuff edges she has going on. It's a very slightly darker shade of blue, this one. So we'll use this for the cuff edges. This edge on her sleeve and this edge on her waistband here. And also with this process blue, we're going to add in this kind of pattern she's got going on her sweater. But as it is meant to be a knitted sweater, I think, I'm going to add this in with kind of dotted lines. You can see that I'm putting in the little dashes along the lines that are drawn in there, hoping to make that look a little bit more as if it is a knitted vest, kind of an argyle knitted vest. And while that is drying maybe a little bit, I'm going to come in with a CG030, which is called Neutral Grey 3, just for a little bit of shading on these areas that we're going to be leaving white on Alice's outfit here, adding in a few shadows on anything that might be casting a shadow, just to show that we haven't ignored her little blouse here. We are colouring it. Before I was interrupted by the noisy neighbours there, and apologies if you can still hear them chatting outside, I did go ahead and finish off her glove there that I did forget to do, and that was just with the lighter blue, the crystal blue that we had for her sweater vest. And I've used the grey to add a little bit of shading to all these folds, the poofs of her sleeves there, the ruffles of her blouse, just very simple shadows. And I'm going to use the process blue just to fill in this little bit down here, the bottom of her dress or skirt that she's wearing. Just add a little bit of colour down there. The stripes on her gloves, these white stripes here, we're also going to shade with the neutral grey, and that will be each side, like we did with this bit of her hair here. We're going to shade each side just to give the glove a little bit of shape, make her hand look a little bit rounded there. And the same with this glove here. A little bit on the top and a little bit behind these mushrooms. And to shade the light blue, I have picked out B270, which is called Vivid Blue. Slightly dark, a little bit of blue there. And exactly the same as we did with the grey. We're going each side of her glove. We can blend that in a little bit maybe with the lighter blue. There we go, just adding a little bit of shape to her arm there. That little bit of shading, keeping it fairly simple. And because this sweater vest here is knitted, I'm going to be adding in some kind of rib lines with the fine point of the marker. This is the vivid blue that I'm using for shading, just to add some rib lines there along the border, the kind of knitted cuff of her shirt there, and again along the bottom, just to add a little bit of texture, show that we are a knitted sweater here. And I'll pop in these buttons as well with that, the vivid blue. It's more of a grey blue than a vivid blue, really. And I'm going to use this just to add a little bit of shade to the actual sweater as well. Especially towards the left-hand side there, as our light will be coming from the right. I'm going to try and blend in that shadow with the crystal blue. Again, as we did with her hair, we can come in with another layer of the crystal blue as well to add some slightly less harsh shadows, some sort of softer shadows there. And with the vivid blue, blending into the crystal blue a little bit for our shadows. And we'll have a few under here as well on the opposite side. Trying to leave my usual little highlight area down the side that I am shading there. And blending that vivid blue into the crystal blue for a bit of shading down her more shady side there. There'll probably be a little bit of shade under her hair there as well. Okay, we're looking pretty good there, but it's time to be adding in a few more colours, I think. I think we're going to be needing a little bit of red because we do have some hearts here. We have mushrooms in the corner. We all know that toadstools are red with the white spots, don't we? So I'm going to bring in a bit of red in a few places. And the red I've chosen to use as a base is R150 zinaber. I'm not entirely sure how to say that, but it is R150. And I'm going to be using that for these red pieces here, the mushrooms and the hearts on the playing cards. We do have a cake here with a little cherry on top, so I'll fill that in with the red as well. And shall we give the cake a little bit of jam in the filling there? And for another little bit of red, oh, maybe Alice's bow here. The little bunny ears, but we'll make this bow red. To shade those little bits of red, I've picked out R230, which is called Strong Red. So I'll add in maybe a little bit of shade to these mushrooms and to those other little bits that we just coloured. We need to bring back our grey a little bit here, I think. We do have some mushrooms here underneath. I think that would be, oh, that should be red. Oh no, there's a little bit of mushroom there that should be red. You didn't see me colour that grey, right? Okay. Yeah, we're going to bring in this grey a little bit. This is again the CG030 Neutral Grey. This cake would have icing, so we'll give that a little bit of shading there for the white icing. We'll give it a white plate. I think these little tags here, those would have a little bit of grey shading. If those are going to be white, our playing cards would have a little bit of grey shading. Again, apologies for the neighbours. It's always when I start filming, guys, I do apologise. But we're adding a little bit of shading for the playing cards there. And we're going to bring this in for her little bunny ears as well. Those would have a little bit of a grey shading. I think we'll use this grey as well for the beak on this flamingo. I think they have grey beaks. I could be wrong for that. I haven't looked up a reference photo for that little flamingo there. But I think that's about all the grey shading that we're going to need. Oh no, we've missed a card here. Yeah. Now that's about all the grey shading that we're going to need. We'll bring in a little bit of a darker grey here. This is Gg110 Toner Grey, and I'll just shade the undersides of these mushrooms a little bit. Maybe the edge of the beak here. Little nostril there. I think that's about all the grey we'll need, the darker grey. I do have a very dark grey because we have a couple of cards here that need to be a very dark grey, and this one is Gg130, which is the darkest grey that was in that set of Ohuhu markers. So we'll fill in those cards there. Flamingos, of course, are pink for the most part, so I've picked out R190 Borgenvillia. Again, I'm not entirely sure how to pronounce that, but it is R190 for this quite a bright light pink here. We'll bring in the pink as well on the insides of our bunny ears, I think. And maybe for some lipstick. It'll match quite nicely with her pale skin and the blonde hair, I think. The colour I picked out to shade the pink is this one here, RV330, which is strawberry pink. So we'll add in a little bit of shading to our little pink areas with that one. As we're sticking mainly to markers here, for most of the shading, I've not brought in any pencil so far for this one, but as we are sticking mainly to the markers, this should be a fairly quick picture to be colouring. If anybody is interested in following along, it'll be a fairly quick picture to be colouring, especially in the little pocket-sized book that I did copy this page from. Just blending that slightly darker strawberry pink in with the Borgenvillia. I think this one was called, the lighter pink that we're using there. We'll use the vivid blue to colour our little flamingo's eye there. That's cute. I'm going to come back in with the E370, which is a light walnut that we did end up using for her hair. And pick out a few little bits with that, maybe the cork on the bottle. And this cake here to keep things really simple. We'll maybe go for a chocolate cake. Chocolate and strawberry or chocolate and cherry. Sounds really good either way. Maybe Black Forest Gatto. Yum. So we'll colour that in with the light walnut. I think that'll work quite well. And I think we might use this light walnut as well for this kind of armband she's got going on here. Maybe a steampunk kind of armband situation. So we'll colour that in as if that's leather. Without bothering to go in for any fancy leather texture or anything. I'll just colour that straight in with the marker, I think. Getting around the buttons. I'm planning on picking those out with a gold gel pen, which I think will work quite well with this brown. I'm going to let that dry a little bit, and I have here Y121. This is called Prmrose. It's like primrose, but without the I. Prmrose. This is kind of a very light creamy colour, and I want to do the face of the watch in that very light cream. There we are. Maybe the label on this wine bottle. A little bit of shading there that I've missed. There's always something. And well, I think we might do the this tie around the hat. I think we'll make this cream colour as well. And to shade that little bit of cream colour a little bit, I have picked out Y140 Nugget. Kind of a goldenrod sort of colour. Are we on the screen? Yeah, we want to add a little bit of shading to the face of this pocket watch. I'm trying to make that look slightly antique, maybe. So we're going to blend that back out with the cream, Primrose. There is one also called Primrose. This one is Primrose without the I. They're two slightly different shades of the pale yellow there. There we go. And we're going to shade a band on the hat as well with that nugget. And blending that back out with the I'll call it Primrose. It's easier to say. Okay, we're looking good. Very near to be getting to the finishing touches here. We do have a wine bottle there to be colouring. So we have a G470, which is pine tree green. I'll just go over the glass with the pine tree green. Whenever I imagine wine bottles, I imagine them as green for some reason, although most of them I think are clear nowadays. But that's the pine tree green, and I will shade that with the G300, which is dark olive. And the green I think I'll use for the top hat as well, the kind of Mad Hatter's hat that she's got going on. And the corner here, safe bringing in any other colours. I think I'll bring in the green from the wine bottle and just bring that into the top hat here. Okay, we're not looking too far off done now. We need to bring in our dark strawberry pink. Maybe shade Olive Lips a little bit. Blend it in slightly with the zinaber. Trying to leave a highlight on the side that is closest to the light. For her eyes, we're going to use the grey for a little bit of a shadow under her eyelid here. And Hannah Lynn's eyes don't really have complete outlines, but I've kind of made one my own there. We'll try to be a little bit fancy with her eyes. I'm going to start with the vivid blue, especially around the top where her eyelid will be casting a shadow. And I'm going to try and add in a few of the kind of lines that you do get in your iris. Both sides as well. And then the B110, which is crystal blue, the same blues that we used for her outfit there. Try and make her eyes look a little bit more realistic, maybe. Have a little bit of fun there. Then I'm going to be coming in with this one, which is G030 Blue Grey 03. And just filling in the rest. I'll blend in the colours together a little bit. There's some nice blue eyes there. And we've missed out shading on a couple of little bits here, these brown bits that we coloured with the walnut colour. And for shading that one, we have E260, which is called Leather. And that's kind of appropriate because we want this armband to look as if it is leather. So we'll just add a little bit of shade there on the opposite side to where our highlight would be coming from. Maybe a little bit of shadow there again to look as if our arm is round. A little bit of shadow on each end wouldn't really go amiss there. We do have a wine cork there and some cake, so we'll try and add a little bit of texture by using the finer point and dotting a little bit maybe. You can see there, adding a few dots to try and add in a little bit of texture for our wine cork, and I think we can do that the same with our yummy cake here. Try and add a few little dots to give a little bit of texture. The areas are fairly tiny, and that would be hard to do if you were working in the pocket size book, but yeah, we can on this slightly larger picture add in a little bit of texture. But we do need shadow behind this watch as well here. And now for a few more of the finer details. I'm really happy with how we're turning out so far, but for the finer details, I'm coming in with the white gel pen. This is the Uniball Signo, the broad white gel pen. I'm going to fill in a few details like the outlines of these playing cards, her buttons, and I'll also pop in the kind of frame of this pocket watch here with the gold as well. And the hands on the clock in the middle. Okay, time now for a few highlights. We are very close to being done now, so we'll add some highlights to her lips and her eyes. My usual big highlight and a little one for the eyes along with the shine lines. A few other white highlights, especially on the edges of these gold bits that we've coloured. But in the usual kind of places, anywhere I need to tidy up any marker bleeding or anything like that, we will pop in white highlights. There'll probably be some going on this glass bottle because we do want that to look glass. Highlights are all done. Now it's time for our glitter, and I'm just going to cover the whole, pretty much the whole of this dark blue background with the glitter, basically to get rid of that moon, but still suggest that kind of nighttime with the dark blue. And the glitter I'm going to be using is this Dovecraft glitter glue, and the colour is Midnight. I'm just going to basically spread this all over the back by blobbing it on like that, and then spreading as much as I can with my finger, covering as much of the area as possible. There we go, there's all the glitter done as a final finishing touch. So I'll zoom us out and we can see the whole picture. Okay, there we are, we're zoomed out and we can see the whole of our picture. We might be glaring a little bit there because our glitter is still wet. And I know you're probably all saying to yourselves, yes, really nice, really sparkly, but where's the puzzle? You told us this was going to be a puzzle. And this is my big reveal. I have been so excited to show you guys this because that is actually the second time I have coloured that picture. So I'll scoot us over to the side there. This is my first colouring. I tried to keep them as similar as possible, but before I coloured this first picture here, I took the line art into an art program and I made 10 differences. I actually adjusted the line art. I made 10 differences to my line art before I coloured that first picture. So my puzzle is actually spot the difference. And yeah, I've been super excited to bring my first version on there to show you guys. It's been really difficult trying to get my colouring exactly the same on both images there. There might be very, very slight differences to the actual colouring with marker pen marks not being in exactly the same place and things like that. But that's not what we're looking at. We're looking for 10 differences to the line art. And once this picture here is dry, I will scan in both pictures and put both up on the screen to give you a chance to pause the screen and be able to actually come in and spot the difference if you do actually want to try that puzzle. I'll leave it up for a while and then I will pop up the answers as well to show you where I did actually go in and change that line art. So yeah, I was really excited to be colouring this one for you guys today. I was really excited for that big reveal at the end, so hopefully it was a surprise for you guys. I was really looking forward to it. it. So yeah, that's it. That's my prompt for create a puzzle, and it was really a super fun one. It was quite hard to decide on a picture to actually use for this prompt, but this is the one that was speaking to me. So yeah, hopefully it was fun for you guys as well, following along how I actually colour this picture. I intended to have the actual picture as more of a colour along, and then bringing in the big reveal at the end to see that we are a bit of a spot the difference puzzle going on. So yeah, hopefully you have enjoyed it. If you have enjoyed the video, please consider liking and subscribing. Take care. I'll see you in future videos, and I will pop up the scans of the pictures so you can play along if that's what you'd like to do. So bye.